It seems like Colossal is Crazy has been talking a lot about wanting to be exposed for something, or just called out in general.
And I'd almost like someone to fucking expose me for something so I don't have this fucking pressure.
And I want to see if I can do it. I want to see if he slipped up anywhere and I can catch him with something. Now, even though Colossal is laughably inactive on his channel, he's very active on various other projects on the site and is seen as a prominent member in the community. He's done collaborations with damn near every known person in the commentary community, and even some unknown people, and he seems to have his hands in just about everything. But there are a few things that I think he genuinely needs criticized for, so let's go ahead and go over a few of those things. So there's two main issues with Colossal as a content creator, and let's go ahead and get the obvious one out of the way first. And that would be that he spends the majority of his video handing out insults to people like the Amazing Atheist,
but TJ Kirk, an overweight, greedy, e-begging, neckbeard pervert,
Lion Maker.
This is about this unwashed creature who apparently has some form of skin disease. If you watch him closely, you can actually see the dead skin cells forming some sort of ghostly aura around his fat person.
This kid.
So we got a nice glaze of grease running along the lines here and here. Very cute double chin, unwashed shirt, and seriously cool Monster Energy drink sticker in the background.
This old dude.
He's so fucking fat, he can't even walk properly.
And Jack something.
Please, just give me some money, I'm so fat and worthless.
All while hiding behind the shield of anonymity. Now, this is a criticism that's often brought up when talking about commentators, because several of them needed to do face reveals, so I don't want to dwell on this too long, but it's still kind of a bitch move. In real life, this guy could look like Fat Bastard for all we know, and we would be none the wiser. The second problem is perhaps a bit nitpick, and it's kind of multifaceted because I have issues beyond his actual content that he's displayed with it. But basically, he has 3 videos that his points boil down to conjecture, regurgitated information, and basically I don't like this person. The first instance is in his Lion Maker video, where Colossal talks about Lion Maker's situation and his opinions on the whole fiasco between Lion Maker and Keemstar. To my knowledge, he brings nothing new to the table other than a compilation of clips that helped him formulate this hypothesis. Nothing wrong with him providing his opinion here, but keep in mind that he didn't really add anything to this other than his opinion. The second instance is in the Amazing Atheist documentary, which is, in my opinion, his weakest video. It basically boils down to, this guy's fat, he has weird sex fetishes, and he's an e-beggar. None of these things being uncommon knowledge. He's fat. Who cares? He likes to fuck bananas. Who cares? The only thing that's bad is the e-begging, but he's extremely brazen about it, to the point where anybody who's heard of him probably already knows that, yet they still donate to him, so is it really even his fault? Again, not a bad video, mainly played for comedic purposes, but he didn't really add any new information to that conversation. The final instance is his FouseyTube video. Now this video is important because it draws parallels to the main point here. So basically, Colossal made a video about FouseyTube being a self-aggrandizing manipulator, and it was a great video. But what did it really add to the conversation of FouseyTube? By the time this video had come out, Leafy was already 3 rants into FouseyTube, and the community had dug into him pretty hard, making everything that was discussed in this video information that was already readily available. Now, why is this important? I'm not calling out any of these videos because they didn't add much, if anything, to the conversation outside of opinion and comedy, because I do that, so if I did that, I'd be a pretty big hypocrite. No, why I'm drawing attention to it is because his reasoning for not doing the Keemstar video, which he talks about in several of his older videos.
You keep asking me for the Drama Alert documentary. Actually, even Keemstar is asking me for it now. The answer is, it will come out at some point. I just don't know when. I've spent over 6 months researching it, so best believe I'm gonna make it fucking count.
Was that iDubbbz beat him to the punch with a lot of the same points that he was gonna make in his video.
I've been working on this Keemstar video for 6 months, and I cancelled it because iDubbbz had already made a video and he said a lot of the points that I was going to say, so I felt like it would just be reciprocating his own fucking video, and so I cancelled it.
However, taking the example of Leafy and Fousey here, Leafy beat him to the punch on Fousey, and Colossal still put out that video. So either Colossal is inconsistent with his dedication to his channel, lied as to the true reason he discontinued the video, or thought Leafy's video was inadequate, which, I mean, that's just goddamn impossible.
Greetings everybody, my name is FouseyTube, and today I'm gonna be giving a motivational speech about never giving up. Who's ready for a great motivational speech?
And I know that Leafy's video on FouseyTube was different from Colossal's, whereas Leafy's was centered around the rice gum debacle and Colossal's was centered around faking social experiments being bad, but Leafy's video about FouseyTube made FouseyTube a hot topic, and others discussed his videos and them being faked, so Colossal's points were covered by others before he'd had the chance to make them. But even if it's only that he thought Leafy's video was inadequate, he's still, by his own logic and not mine, in the wrong for making it.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of the Baited Podcast. I'm your host, Colossal is Crazy, and we're joined here once again by none other than DJ Killer Keemstar.
The Slayer!
And we're also joined here by Tommy C.
Oh shit.
So today, I believe, we're going to be talking about the Leafy situation.
Well, to be honest with you, clown, I don't fucking like him. He made an exposed video on me, and we were friends! We were friends!
Well, I shall call you idiot. Yes, that's what you are, an idiot.
What did you just say to me, clown, you son of a bitch? Alright, harassment, alright? It's harassment, alright?
Because Tommy, he doesn't know it's true.
Do you not see this?
Tommy, do you not see that? Hey, he doesn't know.
So on to the point of mob mentality. This may be a point of view issue, but Colossal completely condemns mob mentality, as we saw in the clip. However, you can't condemn something and be a part of it, otherwise you're a hypocrite. He says take fights one-on-one.
No, because it's a little bit different when it's 1 versus 1. Like, it's just one person criticizing another person. Absolutely fine, got no problem with that. But when it's people in droves, a genuine mob, hundreds upon hundreds of people attacking one person...
Then don't make the fucking video, then don't...
But the fight against FouseyTube was never one-on-one. There was a mob against FouseyTube before the video came out, thus Colossal was already adding to the herd. Another instance would be with Linemaker. He was influenced by Keemstar's videos on the subject to become part of the mob against Linemaker. Him joining the mob, to me, doesn't pose any kind of issue, it's the fact that he took this stance on the issue that's the problem.
Strongly believe in harsh criticism, and some people just do deserve it in my opinion, but nobody deserves an angry mob, telling them to kill themselves and what have you. And if you do that, actually, to be fair, you're just as cancerous as they are. It's really just that simple.
But you can't really take that stance if you're contributing to the problem. And if you want to argue that making a video is not the same mob mentality that he means, we can contest that by looking back at his Basherverse video where he says this.
Mob mentality may very well be cancer, but now the Basher is no longer being harassed in numbers and seems to be back to his general fucking view whoring, I reckon he's fair game.
So while you or I may not see this as a mob mentality issue, if Colossal is staying consistent with what he said in his older videos, then he has to see it like this. Next, let's discuss his appearance on the Hot Wet Soup podcast, on which Colossal was recently a guest. The bulk of the podcast was spent discussing Patreon and its use amongst the YouTube community. Now, what I got out of it was that Colossal believes that Patreon is misused in the community because donations are mainly predicated on the amount of subscribers that you have, and once you have so many subscribers, you're making so much in ad revenue that you don't really need a Patreon, and thus the majority of people using it don't really need it. I think. He never really explains it. He mainly just inquires as to why the others need it, and he tries to break down their arguments instead of really putting forth his own. His original tweet was, Patreon is bad. Keep trying to rationalize the fact that many channels use it, but at the end of the day, do you honestly need it that much? Now, there were sub-facets to this discussion, such as its misuse in the community, and he talked a little bit more about things like the reward system. However, I don't feel like he justified his original tweet with much of an explanation. But anyways, this video is on Colossal and not about Patreon. I may do that later, but the problem with this podcast was not necessarily his arguments, but more some of the things he said in those arguments. So several times during the podcast, Colossal brings up the fact that he's helped out each of these podcast hosts with their channels in the past, which is accurate, there's no doubt about that, and while it was justified at times,
I have helped
but there's
each
so many
one,
people,
sorry,
you know, like-
I have helped each one of you out in the past in one way or another. Zaptai, I helped him out before he even made his first video, and Elvis and yourself, Bionic Pig, have both been featured in one of my videos. A shout out. Now, did you give something to my non-existent Patreon for me to do this?
at other times I'm not so sure that it was.
But
ask anyway.
Given our relationship, you know, we're friends. Obviously, I don't want to bring this up because everything you've achieved is on your own. But let's face it, before you'd even started YouTube, you know.
Oh yeah, no, I'll say it for you. You like,
right.
I wouldn't have a channel without you. I can.
Okay.
I'm
pretty
happy
sure
to.
I'm
all
glad
of
you
us-
have to
all
say
of
it
us
for me
could say
because
that.
otherwise it sounds like I've got a massive fucking ego here. But all your merits are your own. What you've achieved, what you've achieved, are your own. But I did help you out as I helped.
Yeah,
out
he
each one of you.
gave us all the boost.
Yeah. So was
The
it
kickoff
fair?
start would not have happened without you.
Yeah. Was it fair of you to not give me any benefit of the doubt, not speak to me in private, or anything like that, and ask what I meant, and just jump into this fucking tweet? I guess you kind of already answered that by apologizing.
not at all.
And it kind of came across as arrogance, or you can't criticize me without my consent, basically, because I made you. Fat, 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 fat. Stop. How about you eat a goddamn salad sometimes, like. This is Timothy Fat, a food review YouTuber who's about one KFC family bucket away from achieving his own gravitational pull. His hobbies include long oceanside mobility scooter rides and testing the phrase, "Your eyes are bigger than your stomach." Last week, Timothy set up a Patreon for his YouTube channel, citing the reason as, quote, "I've always wondered if I could ingest enough Hostess cream filling as to overtake the amount of blood in my body." Nope, wait. I think I read that wrong. It's actually to help pay for my medical bills. Oh well, what's the difference, right, Fat? The final thing about Colossal that I think can be criticized is his comedy. Colossal is a very funny guy. He knows how to emphasize words to great effect and make great use of his very distinct voice. However, his comedy is pretty well limited to one of the easiest and cheapest forms of comedy, in my opinion, which is insult comedy. Now, to be honest, I don't really care. I mean, you can call people fat if you want and put it under the guise of harsh criticism, whatever. But all too often, his videos are just insults towards the other person he's talking about and just talking about their physical appearance rather than mocking what I think should be the bulk of his video, their content or what they've done wrong. For an example, I look to his Amazing Atheist video, in which 2/3 of that video is dedicated to the guy's weight and his sexual partners, while the e-begging is relegated to the last few minutes. So to illustrate a bit, I'll leave you with this small homage.
Fat, 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 utilizing fat, fat, fat.
Alright, that's the video, guys. Like it, don't like it, let me know. I made this video, as I stated in the beginning, because he asked for criticism, and I wanted to see if there was any to be found. I tried to keep my personal opinions out of it as much as I could, but in the end, there's not really enough for me to go on to say that he's done quote-unquote wrong, and a lot of the points are points of perception. Could what he's saying be taken as this? Did the point of this video matter? Could you look at this in this way and make his decision inadequate? These sort of questions are all that I can really critique him on here, as well as the few times I feel like Colossal said something and then didn't really stick to it. Now, keep in mind that I think Colossal is bar none the best commentator around. He's witty, entertaining, smart, and he genuinely tries to provide perspective into what he's talking about. So if I think Colossal is so great, you best believe that I have reason to go even harder on others. But outside of that, this video has another point, and that's that no one is above criticism. And if you want the best to get better, then you still need to push them. Shark pride for life, bruh.